Thank you for joining us on Worldwide Slot Car Chat on Zoom, recording 122. I'm your host, Greg. We got Jim and Pete and John 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 and John. And other guys not named John. I don't know why they even come, because everybody here is named John. But we're going to talk about slot cars of all kinds, and we've already got guys with their hands up ready for show and tell, I hope, because that's what we start the day off with. Show and tell time. So if you have something you want to show and tell, raise your virtual hand and we'll make sure to get to you. And then we'll talk about other things when we're done with that. So to get things going, Jim has his hand up. What you got today, Jim?
Well, if I may, I've got Club Corner, but I have to leave in about a half hour. If it's okay to start with that.
Yeah, go ahead.
So it's a little bit of show and tell too. So we had our first race at Fast Track Hobbies over the weekend, and Fast Track Hobbies features the Yellow Dragon, which is I almost said a bad word on recording. It's a bitch of a track. It's fun though. And so it's the first race we had. We did the same format that we ran at the Modesto track with F1 in Group C, MSR F1, slotted Group C. We had 13 entries in each class to start. We had a couple computer issues that delayed things, so a couple people had to leave early, but we also had Justin Colvin, multi-time national champion, helping out running the race. Fortunately, he didn't race, or we would have all been racing for second. One of the cool cars there, this is John Roberts, a friend of mine from Sacramento, that he just does great looking liveries, and he's got quite a few of these, but this is the car he raced last Sunday. That's the track, and driver's panel is on the upper right over by the purple track, and you can see it's a tough track to learn, but it's a fun track. Here's what it looks like in real life. So we had practice in the morning and then racing right after that. What we found on this track is that it is extreme high bite. It's spray glued. So a lot of people had issues with it, and I didn't. I'll explain that later. But it was like I said, the Group C was the first race. It was a fun race. Everybody had trouble with traction being too much because it's spray glued, and the cars were like running on flypaper. So here's the results in the Group C race. And so Mario from Sacramento, Mike from the San Francisco Bay Area, I'm from Sacramento. The F1 race, Ted's from Sacramento area, Ian's from the San Francisco Bay Area, and myself. This is my winning Group C car. And if you'll notice anybody notice anything different on this car? Or kind of out of the ordinary for tires at the rear. Yeah. I ran the stock kit tires that comes in the box with the Dunlop stickers on them, and they worked flawlessly. So we're putting out some memos and some information to our racers. I was about a half a second faster than anybody because my car ran around the glue without any problems. I did some testing. I didn't know the day of the race whether these tires would work or not, so it's not like something that I knew and just withheld. I told people I was going to do this, but I didn't know if they would work the day of the race, and they did. So we're going to be putting this up on a new website that Ian Douglas has developed for Northern California slot cars. And this is the basic setup of that car. Everything's pretty straightforward, except for the tires. And the tires made this car work extremely well.
You can use zero grips with spray glue.
Probably
cardboard tires.
Yeah, probably. These are, and I oiled these tires quite a bit because they have so little traction. Yeah. But the oil didn't take to it. Whatever this rubber is, the oil didn't take to it, which was probably a good thing. Like I said, this car just ran around like you didn't even notice they were spray glue there. It was a little loose, but you just had to drive it, let it roll through the corners and pick the throttle up when the car was straight, and it ran great. So we're not going to have a problem with the spray glue in the future. We just get everybody to go to these tires. We're talking about making a spec tire, but we decided not to do that. Just inform everybody and let everybody know what works on this track and then go from there. That being said,
Jim, before you move on, that said NSR wood guide. Is that a specific guide for wood tracks?
It is. It's the one they call the wood guide, so it's deeper. That's the part number.
I got you. Okay.
Going forward, because I'm going to write a report on this for our club and for my YouTube channel, I would use the slot invasion guide only because the NSR guide has to be modified for the NSR for the slotted cars. It's too long in the back, so you have to take a Dremel to it. It's not a big deal, but you do have to modify it. So the slot invasion guide, you don't have to modify. So when I buy some new ones, I'll probably buy the slot invasion for this particular car. Everybody else also had an issue. A lot of our guys are not used to running on other tracks or tracks that has a braid depth. The braid depth on this track is 35 thousandths. So I had to put 40 thousandths worth of spacers between my guide and the chassis. A lot of people were fluffing their braid. You know, the braid just wasn't hitting the braid on the car, wasn't hitting the braid on the track, and they were having power issues. So again, I'm going to do a YouTube on that, on how to set up a car for a different track and setting it for the braid depth. One of the things we're going to do to get that information out, we have a new website that Ian Douglas, friend of mine from the Bay Area, you saw his, he was down at Dennis, you met him, he's down at the Electric Dreams race. He's put this website up. It's not ready for prime time yet, so there's not a URL, there's not an address here. I will give that to everybody if you want to look at what we're doing in Northern California, but it's going to have race results, all the tracks that we race on, both HO and 32nd scale, because there's a lot of crossover in our group between those two scales. We're going to leave 24 scale out of it because they're kind of on their own and it's their own community, but the HO and the 32nd scale are somewhat close, and a lot of people race both. So there'll be race reports, tech tips, links, scheduling, calendars, everything. So it's going to be a really good, very nicely designed website. So that's something I want to thank Ian for. And like I said, it'll be up. It's up now, but we haven't given out the address because it's just not complete and not ready for prime time, so to speak. So that's about it from NorCal. I thank you for letting me go first, because I do have to leave about 11:30, and we've got a great program going. As of now, I met with Dwight at Fast Track Hobbies in Sacramento yesterday, and so now we're going to have a race every month in Sacramento and a race every month in Modesto at Motown, along with our regular home club track racing. And so we're going to have a series coming up in Modesto. We're going to have for F1. We're going to have a series coming up in Sacramento for Group C. And so racing is going as good as it's ever been in 32nd scale home racing style cars, both on the home tracks and the commercial tracks. Mike Andrews, another guy that went down, he didn't make Electric Dreams because he was in New Zealand, but he's been down there. He has Silicon City Raceway in the San Jose area, and he just put out a schedule, and he's going to have a Group C series for the rest of the year. So one race a month. So right now we've got 3 races a month already scheduled for the rest of the year, which is very unusual for us. It's usually like, well, there's a race coming up in 2 weeks, be there. So we've got a good schedule, and that website's going to go a long way to help get that information out as well. So,
Jim, do y'all have a point system going?
have a what?
A points system?
No, we don't, because they're basically just club races and we just have fun. But at Motown, we're going to have a 3-race series for F1. At Fast Tracks in Sacramento, we're going to have a 3-race Group C series. Mike is going to have a 4-race Group C series. The ones that I'm promoting at Fast Track and at Motown, it's a 3-race series, so September, October, November. At the November race, at the end of that race, the F1 race, that'll be 3 points races. We're going to take the top 6 points getters, and they're going to have a shootout for the championship. So it'll be kind of like NASCAR. There's 3 races that qualifies you for for the championship, and so the top 6 points getters of the 3 races will race for A main for the title. So it's not a points title; it's an A main title. But you have to race a couple races and do well to get into that A main. So that's the format that we're going to use for those 2 tracks.
Cool beans. Thanks for sharing and talking about new racing in your area. Anybody got any more questions for Jim before we move on? All righty, let's get to Pete. What you got to show and tell today, Pete? Oh no, your microphone isn't working.
Still.
We'll get back to you. Dennis, go ahead and do yours.
First, I got to unmute myself, right? And then I've got to change my camera because I want to use this camera. Come on. that camera there. There we go. Once more, there we go. Okay. Last week I spent a little bit of time up at Buena Park Raceway during the week with a couple of friends playing with some hard body stuff. And it kind of got me going on hard bodies again that I haven't done for a while. And so when I was at Electric Dreams on Thursday, I saw these had just come in. This is the new Scale Auto, what they call the RS2 chassis, which is one of those fancy nuts and bolt chassis with all sorts of carbon fiber pieces up front. And it came with a white body and a decal sheet that has more decals on it than I've ever seen for one car in my life. And it took just a coat of pink paint, and then the rest was just decal after decal after decal after decal, some on top of each other to get all of that done. But it was fun. That's one of it's a German DTM car from a couple of years back, but I particularly like the pink and the BWT livery, so that's what caught me on that one. And then I've been doing a bunch of repaints of cars that I remember when I was racing when I was a kid and a teenager back in South Africa, and this is one of those. There was a fellow in auto dealer in Johannesburg by the name of Basil Green, who started taking Ford Capris that had V6s in them, taking out the Ford V6 and dropping a small block Ford V8 into them. I think they used a 289. I'm not dead sure about that. But they called it a Perana, P-E-R-A-N-A. This damn thing doesn't focus this close, but so this was the car. So I used an SRC Capri. It's still on its stock chassis. I haven't done any work to that yet, and I still need to take out the BBS wheels and put Hallebrand inserts into it. But I just had to strip the paint down and so repaint and some decal set. So that's another one that goes with my Alfa Romeos, and I've got a Mustang that used to race there, and I've got the Alfa and the Escort and a couple of others. So that's me for now.
Do you guys have a minimum body and all-in weight for the scale autos, Dennis?
We don't run them anywhere. I just built this one for fun.
Oh, okay.
This thing is 211 grams as it sits here.
Yeah. Okay. We run those on Ernie's upstairs track, and
yeah.
There's a minimum. We run a minimum body weight and a minimum all-in weight.
Yeah. Of what? How much?
I don't know the body, but offhand, but I can't remember the body offhand. But the all-in's 220.
220. Okay. Yeah. So this one would then need to carry a little bit more, but there's none of that as organized racing down here, unfortunately. So right now this was just for fun, and maybe I'll get some people to maybe we'll run them. I'll take it with me tomorrow to Electric Dreams. Maybe we'll get some people to run them there, seeing as we have them in stock now.
They're a blast to run. I've got a couple of those.
Oh, they're really nice.
I don't race at Allen's, but I take them to Allen's, race them around just for fun.
All right.
He runs those races with those cars.
So that's me for today.
Thanks for sharing, Dennis. And Pete, you want to try again? Nope. We'll have to do some troubleshooting after the end of the recording or something, figure out what's going on. But John put his hand up. What would you like to show and tell today, John?
Okay, I've got 3 Pioneers that I picked up. I got those after or before the last time I was on, which was about 3 weeks ago because of health reasons and out of town. That's the Ford Thunderbird. There's a Sunoco. Had to get a Sunoco in there for Greg.
Of course.
These are fun little cars. These are still on the Pioneer chassis. They haven't changed any. And then the last was the Yellow.
And those
These
are
are
good cars, and you can just drop some Carson chips into those and run them around if you want.
They're really fast. I was very pleased with them. They handle quite well. So other than these little cars that I have from Pioneer, those.
Oh, the Legends, yeah.
Yeah, the Legends. Thank you. These are the only Pioneers I've ever owned, and I really like them. They seem to be well made, and everything about them it seems to be good right now. Of course, they're new. Like I said, I've only had them for 3 weeks and only used them for about a week.
And they're easy to work on too. One of the things that I like about the Pioneer is that the front axle is clipped in, so you can, and with bushing, so you can pop the whole thing out and slap it on your Truer.
Well, we're thinking about doing a whole class of these. I call them the California rods. We're thinking about doing a whole class racing of these starting in the fall.
Yeah, they're
We'll let you know.
great cars. Yeah, little Truer. Some people have a hate relationship with the front guide. It's never really bothered me, but they're easy to replace, with a variety of guides as well.
Well, we run on such different. We have Scalextric, Carrera, and I guess the other one is a polycar track that we run on. So you have to do a little Dremel to kind of get a happy medium for those three, but it's not much. It's just a touch.
All right. Well, we look forward to hearing about that racing then.
Got it.
All right. Any other show and tells to show and tell? I don't see any other hands up.
My invisible hand's up.
Okay, go ahead, Chris.
I'm going to do a contest here, open to everyone except Dennis. I have done something that I swore I would never, ever do.
You got married again.
No, which is rebuilding probably one of the world's most hideous slot cars ever. So
It must be an Eldon of some sort.
no. You see that?
I can see it, but I have no idea what it is.
Anybody?
Except Dennis, right?
Everybody except Dennis. Yeah, I have no idea. That's before my time.
Without saying, do you know what it is, Dennis?
A classic of some sort.
Yeah. Okay. This is a company called Classic, which is around in the early mid-60s. They were really phenomenally well known for thingies like weird designs and all kinds of stuff. And they had cars called the Asp, the Stinger, which had actually a movable spoiler on it. They had a Manta Ray. And the Manta Ray was actually reportedly, supposedly, the world's best-selling slot car of all time. And they sold well over 1 million of those. So anyone sort of trying to, make sense of the hobby. I mean, when the new plastic cars guys come out, they make 1,000, 2,500, 3,500. This thing sold well over 1 million copies of it. So this was a rebuild. It's all original parts that came back to it. Runs way better now than it ever did. I mean, the advantage of having tire truers and stuff like that has made a monster difference to the whole thing. I did put quite a few bits and pieces in the motor. That's a 36D motor, which is, weighs 1.5 pounds all by itself. It's a monstrous bloody thing. And I have quite a few parts from the era. So I put some Arco 33 magnets in it and balanced the arm and cut the com and made some brushes and stuff like that. And it goes under. This is not what it went under. Why can't I do this?
That one came out of an Asp, did it?
No, even worse, Dennis.
Out of a Manta Ray?
No, sir.
Oh, I can't remember the other one now.
Well,
One of the narrow ones.
The world's ugliest slot car.
Yeah, okay. Now I remember.
That's awesome.
This thing
Formula E.
was the Astro V, the classic Astro V. I really didn't like the look of all the rest of them. but I hated this one. And I never wanted one. I looked away when I saw them. I hated them. But a guy asked me if I'd rebuild one. So this is not this is just a picture I picked up of images. I've got a new body, a repro body that I'm in the midst of putting on, but clearly influenced by the Bonneville salt flat guys, I would think of some sort. But just
You should have the George Jetson theme song.
Oh yeah, no, it's a really Having said that, compared to the Manta Ray, which just looked like a blob, it had no.
And the Manta Ray looked like bubble packaging.
Yeah, it looked like you just buy a tube of silicone glue and take the packaging off and stick it on your car. But and they didn't go very well. They had really thin, flimsy aluminum chassis, and particularly ASP was known, the U bracket on the back that held the axle and stuff was so flimsy that after a couple of laps, it would invariably bend and warp and do all kinds of stuff. Having said that, Classic probably sold, I'm not sure, maybe a toss up with Cox, but Classic might have sold the most slot cars of all time.
Problem with the Astro V was the guide wouldn't turn up front. It was
Christ, who cares? Who would care?
It was just not
Anyway,
enough space.
That's me. Nobody won the contest, so I was gonna, give you $100,000, but I get to save that for this week.
Aw.
I'm done. Maybe next week.
And second prize.
Yeah, he was going to give away the car, but none of us wanted it.
Oh, I wanted it, but I don't. Yeah, obviously, I didn't win. I've always wanted a genuine thingy, but yeah.
I was gonna guess a little bit wagon, but that was off.
Well, there's a bunch of neat thingies now. I like the scrap. There you go.
Oh, that's the
Look
man.
at that Manta Ray on the top. Isn't that a beauty?
Nice.
I mean, the weird thing was, if you go back to that Manta Ray kit, they gave you a Lotus 30 body with the thing, which actually looked pretty good. But
nobody ever used them.
Right, they stuck that thing on.
That's funny.
Yeah, and they sold those by the million.
Oh, just
How did the Manta Ray run? Was it a good body to run?
the cars at that time were so slow, like the bodies were sort of, the bodies weighed nothing because they weren't Lexan, they were butyrate at the time, which is like a feeble, brittle, horrible Lexan that cracked and split all over the place. But they weighed nothing, so they really didn't affect the car weight. And at the time, the tracks in the early 60s were rough and slow enough that aerodynamics and ground effects of the body really didn't make too much difference.
Well, thanks for that show and tell, and a little flashback to some troublesome history for you at least, but I thought it was pretty cool. And Alan put his hand up. Do you have a show and tell, Alan? You're still muted.
We go. Look, see, amateur, total amateur.
Been a while.
Good evening, guys. Been a while. So at the other end of the spectrum from the cars that were just shown, I spent this afternoon building this. A JK C43 Aeolus chassis. And this is being built for a competition that's going on at North London a week tomorrow. And I took it down there today to kind of finish up and do the soldering. Someone's down there to help me out. So, much thanks to Steve. I've never driven anything like this. I've driven fast plastic chassis cars and I've driven brass chassis cars. This is mind-bending how fast it gets around that track. So, I'm told that this is good, that I've Dennis will be able to comment on this. That I spent a lot of time flattening the chassis. But this gunk here that comes up off the track, I'm told that that's a really good indication that I did a good job of flattening the chassis.
Yeah, that's pretty good. They call it rub.
Yeah.
That's pretty good rub.
Okay.
Yeah, so
pretty good wheel.
we call it scum.
Yeah.
So what I would tell you is you want a little more scum through the middle section of the nose pan. And then if the car's, yeah,
Either
right
that,
now
it's either not flat enough or it's not low enough.
Yeah.
that's right.
Okay.
You just got it on the tip. So maybe lower the guide a tick. And then if you want to try something, put a little bit of body armor underneath the front of the pans. Depending on the turns, sometimes the pan will upset the car if it bumps it. I do notice you got pin tubes that float, so that helps too. I like those.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's also got this tape on here.
Did James tell you to put that on?
No, I've been working with Steve
Okay.
Simpson, and so this I mean it was absolutely flying around. I've never driven anything like this, and I've got the body to put on yet because I put the test body on before. This is a Lola body, so I've got to get that on there, spray it all up, get it all done, and maybe in a couple of weeks' time I'll let you know how the day went or the evening went. But from today's kind of first test, well, it's so much faster than the Can-Am cars or the F1 cars that I've driven.
Oh yeah, it's a different ball game altogether.
Absolute monster.
Have you seen any of the guys at the club race Eurosport cars?
No.
That's not even the jump from 30-second scale cars to this is not even the jump from that to a Eurosport car.
Is that 124th?
Eurosports come in 132nd and 124th.
That car that Alan's showing is 124th. Yeah,
That's what I thought. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What motor do you have?
Are you running what is that? A JKM9 or something like that?
Yeah, it's a 9BB motor.
Yeah.
9BB. Oh yeah, those things are quick.
Yeah.
And it kicks like a mule, and it brakes honestly on a, I have to turn the brakes right down.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And it's just compared to plastic chassis racing, this stuff is just, you don't have time to react to what's going on. You just have to get that rhythm perfect every time.
And the thing is too that they have the faster you go, the better they handle because of the aerodynamics of the body. So if you're not on it, you don't get the consistent handling. So you have to be really pushing it all the time.
Yeah.
Wayne, are those foam tires?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say, are they racing with glue on the track or just treated foam rubber?
Soft foam. Those will be soft foam. They'll be. They look like JKs or else they're.
I think they're JKs.
Yeah, those are JKs.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not alloy wheels, but they're alloy centers and they're polymer outers. So anyway, so I'll let you guys know in a couple of weeks' time how that event went.
Nice.
A week tomorrow, I'll have this done, and hopefully won't make a hash of the bodywork. Get it all mounted.
Bodies.
2 races and you'll be making a hash of the new body anyway. So.
That's right. Bodies.
It's not going to make any
Bodies are
difference. You're not going to see it anyway.
One color paint jobs, bodies are disposable. The other thing, when you do your post race, be sure the new JK hubs are pretty fragile. If you notice, those hubs have a little bit of a shiny on them, so they're pretty fragile. I've had to replace them lots after races. The other thing I noticed in there is be sure to trim the rear axle all the way down. Because as much weight as you can get off of that, I know the motor is powerful, but still they have so much traction. You want as much weight off that thing.
Yeah, we chopped the axle down to the minimum required using a Dremel.
Oh, good.
So there's, I'm pretty confident. I mean, I was flying around that track and thinking, wow, this is beyond anything I've ever put through my controller. And
Alan, I was going to ask a question about the controller. Do you use the same controller for the 132nd that you do for this?
Yeah, but it's the same controller. One of those controllers I've been showing, the slotted SCP2.
Right.
But mine has got the metal cartridge, analog cartridge on it.
Yeah.
The 25
high amperage cartridge.
And it's also got the bypass relay. which if you look on the website for Slot It, you can get a bypass relay diagram. You can build a little box for the bypass relay. I also built in a resistor variable brake, but for this, that was helpful because I just couldn't turn the brake down enough on the handset because the magnets in this did just brake too hard. I couldn't get any roll at all. So it is an SCP2, but it's creaking at the edges of what it's capable of doing.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm sticking with it, but I think I may have to put some money into a controller if I'm going to continue down this route.
Yep. Especially if you go with anything, because I mean that motor is a middling motor. If you get into any classes with anything with real power to it, your slotted controller is going to be useless.
Yeah. But carry on. Once you think you can drive that thing at its maximum, then we'll give you some pointers to make it even quicker.
Okay.
Because there's a couple of bits and pieces on that car that, well, we all have personal likes and dislikes, but that guide flag and that guide mechanism.
Yeah.
I was surprised how much difference the tape made. And the reason this doesn't have the JK guide on it is that the JK guide doesn't fit. That makes no sense, right? But that is the fact that the JK guide doesn't fit. It's longer at the bottom, which means that on this particular chassis, which has this, there's a word for it, Dennis would know.
Yeah, coining.
The guide that I bought to go on this chassis overhangs this and grinds on this part of the chassis. Really? So I have to cut it. So, yeah, it wasn't my first choice of guide.
I've never used JK guides.
No.
The fast guide on that car is a Red Fox guide. But,
with your weights in it, right? Yes.
No, with my weights in it. If
they allow them.
If they allow them, yeah.
The peculiar thing about this chassis is that, I bought it to do this kind of sports car Can-Am kind of looking body, and that's typically what Ukra do with their production class. But BSCRA also use this chassis, and they use saloon bodies on it. So much as I wasn't thinking I'd head for BSCRA already, it looks as though I'm already starting to accumulate, quills in my quiver that can do the job. So this is the first one.
Good.
And the next one will be some kind of production Can-Am chassis, probably a brass chassis, inline Can-Am chassis. And then after that, who knows? There's a class they race called Tottenham, but those things are frightening. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, their Tottenham class is actually a throwback to the cars that the guys used to race on the King track at Tottenham Model Raceways back in the 70s and 80s. And it's like a 200-gram car with a C-can motor with 25 gauge armatures and things like that. So it's crazy. I have one. They're crazy fun, those things.
Yeah.
And you've got some a bit of a tutorial on how to mount the body, Alan? Or got some help? That can really make or break the car.
How to mount it? No, I'm just going to go with James Clee's tutorial.
Yeah, no, okay. That's
very
fine.
Good place to start.
Yeah.
Figure that. Those are the pointers I pretty much used to put this chassis together. It was all going very well until I found I couldn't solder the motor in. And I just didn't have the right flux and the right solder. So that's when I had to pick up the phone and ask for some help.
Okay.
So that's me. That's what I've been doing. And yeah, in 2 weeks' time, I'll let everybody know how it went.
Looking forward to it.
Okay.
Does this mean Alan's becoming a crazed speed moron?
He's an SCM now. He's another one of us.
Yeah.
Crazy morons.
Right. Yeah. Those MSR motors with the 30K motors, they just don't do it for me anymore.
No, the speed crazed morons are wing car guys.
Yeah.
We're just average.
I'll get there.
Oh, he's just on the first rung of the ladder then. Yeah.
Maybe the third rung.
Best of luck, Alan.
Thanks for showing. Yeah, and good luck on your racing with that. Before we move on to Club Corner, I'm going to do kind of a show and tell here. There's a couple of interesting tidbits that have hit my news feed. MSR have released a tire true type tire truing machine. It actually looks very similar geometrically and measurements wise as the Area 3 Professor Motor Tire True. I don't know anybody who has one, but if anybody picks one up, I wouldn't mind, hearing about the measurements of things to see.
Look at that China power supply. That's exactly the same one I use on my Tire Truer.
Yeah, it's even got an LED display for the voltage. 250
only goes down to 4 volts.
250 is a little pricey, but if you need one, and this is only your only option, it's there. You can go buy one at mainstreetracing.com, and I'll put the link in the chat and remember to put it in the thing. And the other thing I wanted to share was the guy who did the Robin figure saw the video last week and posted a comment about how he's happy to work with people on on group buys or bulk orders or whatever it is to help keep the shipping costs down. He also gave me links to his Facebook page, so you don't have to go to eBay to buy his figures, where you can see he does a wide variety of figures. He's got a Mad Max coming out soon, Batgirls and Joker figures to stand next to your Batmobile, Blues Brothers figures to stand next to your Bluesmobiles.
So cool.
All these kind of stuff. Smokey and the Bandit figures, Dukes of Hazzard figures. And he gave me a little bit of news to break on the Worldwide Slot Car Chat, and that is he's currently working on an Only Fools and Horses set of figures to stand next to your Reliant Robin and whatever the other car is, Scalextric set for Only Fools and Horses. So if you're an Only Fools and Horses fan, then he's got the figures coming up for you.
That's the other one, isn't it?
What was that, Wayne? I didn't hear that, Wayne.
I said the other Fools and Horses car is a lime green coloured Capri with pink bits.
Yeah. I was not familiar with that show. So I actually had to look it up to see which cars he was making the figures for and what the figures would possibly look like. But there's a little breaking news for Only Fools and Horses fans.
Did he give you any suggestions on how we should go about getting the costs down, as in group purchases, etc.?
Well, I mean, there's your typical group purchase thing, but he also said that he's happy to work with, retailers in the U.S. To carry his figures. So I was gonna, connect him with Alan at 132, and I think he mentioned that Cincy Slots has some of his figures for sale. So if you're in the U.S. and you want some of his figures and save on shipping, check out cincyslots.com to see what they have in stock. But hopefully, in the coming weeks or months, more U.S. retailers will have his figures in stock for sale for more reasonable shipping costs. Toss them in along with your Blues Brothers mobile or whatever. So hopefully we'll have some news about that in the coming weeks or months about where you can order aside from Cincy Slots, assuming they have it.
Just a quick comment on tire truers. If anyone's looking for one, TWP makes a pretty neat little truer. You can get them at Pacific Coast Hobbies in the States. I think they're about $180, and they're basically
We have them at Electric Greens as well.
Yeah, and it's basically a knockoff of the Huddy. So the tire counter rotates against the drum, which is probably the best way to cut tires.
Yeah, but it's not a whole axle truer like the Main Street Racing or the Tire Truer.
No.
Yeah.
No.
What was that again? Pacific what?
PCH. Well, apparently Electric Dreams has them, and PCH Hobbies, Pacific Coast Hobbies.
Careful, not PCH Hobbies. PCH Parts Express.
Yep.
Yeah, they're in Ventura.
e-slotcar.com.
Yep.
They're in Ventura, and they're not the same as Pacific Coast Hobbies, which is an actual hobby store.
Okay.
Yeah, if you Google in PCH slot parts, it will take you right to it's slot car, as Dennis was saying. So
They show that one at $195.
There we go. Okay, I found it. And there's the Truer.
and they make them in different colors.
Color coordinated. All right, I'll drop the link in the chat there for direct to the Truer. So yeah.
I don't recall that there's a blue and yellow.
Oh man. There's a blue though. I'm looking at the blue. All right, good news. All right, anybody else want to do a show and tell kind of thing or news thing before we go to Club Corner? All right, let's do Club Corner. If you got past, present, or future more than one person racing on a track to talk about, now's the time to do it. Frank's got his hand up. What you want to talk about, Frank?
Well, I was just joking before we went on the recording. We'll talk about the Nationals, although racing wise, I did not have such a good day. I did not take off both of the 10 lead wires to the guide. So one of them was still 10, and that's what broke on my car. But I will say that this is the third race that I've actually raced at Electric Dreams 4th class. 3 out of the 4 classes, including this one, I broke. So racing wise, I haven't had a whole lot of fun there. But the race at the Nationals was, it was really, really, really good. Mark will put on such an organized, well-organized race. I think Jim Rose has said more than once about it. Bunch of guys, I mean, there's 52 of us racing, over 60 actually registered for the race. And it was just really a good time. And it's the best good time I've had there racing as well. Some of the other races that I've been there to were just over serious. This one was a serious race, it's Nationals, but the people who were involved just made it an enjoyable day. We had a really good time all day long. But that's my woes as far as racing goes at the Nationals. I did fix it and get back in there and gave them a little hell on the other 3 in the other 3 heats that I was able to get back into. And I didn't come in last, even though I broke. Yeah, I came in like, what, 4th or 5th maybe from the bottom.
And not last is a win in my book.
There you go. And there's always next time.
Well, you may come last if you don't lose.
There you go.
Think positively, Frank. You got a lot of room for improvement there.
You got it.
Well, Frank,
nowhere to go but up.
I hope you watched the replay because we were rooting for you, in the comments.
Oh, thank you. No, I haven't watched it yet.
I mean, you were first place in the last 5 guys, right?
That's right.
Frank, I used to tell my wife, I came in closer to 2nd than 1st.
There you go.
That's a good one. That's a very good one.
Any other group racing activities anybody wants to talk about or even ask about? If you're, I don't know, wanting to start a club or wanting some suggestions on how to run a race of some sort, any kind of club related topic, now's a good time to bring it up. Hearing and seeing none, the floor is open. Anybody got any burning questions or anything they want to just talk about? As long as it's any scale of slot cars, take it away. I don't have any other topics in my list, I don't think. Let me just double check.
Can probably add in a little bit about, it's kind of Club Corner, but not entirely because it wasn't really a club. Last Wednesday, 3 or 4 of us got together at Buena Park Raceway on their flat track. I didn't take any photos, unfortunately, but what we did was we took all those PRM Group 2 cars, the small-bodied 124 scale cars, absolutely dead standard, straight out the box with just tire truing and nothing else. And we ran those around the track for a couple of hours. And they're as slow as can come because they're 19,000 RPM motors, right? So on a commercial track, they're doing like 8-second laps. But they are so evenly matched that it is actually enormous amount of fun. And you really have to concentrate. And you're involved with guys all the time, right next to you. The cars are circulating within inches of each other the whole time. And if you're on adjacent lanes, one guy will get a little bit of advantage to one turn that the other guy will pick up through the next turn, and so on. It's actually a lot of fun. And I guess it just shows that, as the speed goes up, the fun goes down a little. So it was really a lot of good time.
Yeah, those are fun cars. That kind of reminds me of why Ninco Classics are so much fun, because
Right.
you can have those 8-second laps on a 50-foot track, and it's still just as much fun as driving those cars on a commercial track or.
Because it's the relative speed that gives gives things. If the cars are the same speed,
Right.
and you're still fighting for that 1/10 of a second, but you're fighting for a 1/10 over 8 seconds instead of a 1/10 over 4 seconds.
Yeah.
It was like my friends who raced the big RC cars, the really fast ones, were kind of scoffing at the Z's, the mini Z's, until you race it on a mini Z track, which is to scale, and all of a sudden it's like, whoa, these things are really fast, and this is really competitive. So it's all about what you're up against and how you're racing. And I like racing the slower races on those kind of cars because strategically you have to be really smart about where you're going to do things and how you're going to do them, and how you even drafting in those side drafting in those races can be a lot of fun.
I remember years back watching a guy drive a mini Z around a slot car track.
Oh yeah.
Around the King track.
Yeah.
And he was good, and he really did a good job. It was a Blue King track, so it had that big bank turn at the end of the straightaway, and he managed it really well, high up on the banking as he came in, and then just turned it down into the banking as he came through it. But he'd obviously put out a lot of laps in.
There's some new RC cars out of France that are the size of the poly car, 21 poly car. And in fact, even their parts are interchangeable. And I'm trying to get mine built up to where I can go on my track and try it out there, but I've never had luck with an RC car on that kind of track. Too tight.
Yeah, I mean, on one of those, on an 8-lane, 1/24th commercial track, it's different than.
John, do you know what those cars are called, the French ones?
Give me a second and I'll look it up. Y'all talk amongst yourselves. I'll get back to you on that.
All right, thanks.
Coffee talk.
Yeah, I was gonna say baguettes.
Yeah,
that's what they're called, baguettes.
That's right. Yeah. I got a quick question for Courtney. Courtney, did you ever get sorted out on your Mazzetti chassis?
So, as a matter of fact, I did.
Okay, good.
I just kept working them, and little by little, and actually my GT, so we run that on GTP, which is it's a faster motor. It's a Phoenix Super we run in that, and the high downforce GTP bodies, I run Ralph Thorne on that car. And I finished the first race in it, I finished third, but I TQ'd with it. And no offense, Dennis, but we used my last race, we went to the Swiss weighted guide, and we made another change to the car. So I'm running no dampening between the pan and the center section.
What pan do you use?
That is the lightweight pan.
Okay.
Now I got a race on the 10th, and I'm building the second one with the insane pan.
Yeah.
And we'll see what happens.
And that's on what's the track, Courtney?
So we're going to go to Helen, Georgia, and it's a reverse king. I've never been there.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. On the flat tracks, I stick with the C43. I just can't seem to get the Mazzetti work, but the new Avenger 2 center section looks like it might be a flat track chassis. I'm not familiar enough with Mazzetti. I just know that C43 on the flat track is really good.
Yeah.
I think that the Avenger X center section for me has turned out to be probably the best of those. The Avenger Air works well. I've tried an Avenger 2, and I've got to do a little bit more work on the taping of that. I think I over-taped it, so it's not as predictable as the others.
Yeah,
but that on a flat track, all on flat track.
Yeah.
I don't run anything else. Real slot cars run on flat tracks.
Right. Well, you got that punch bowl king at Bona Park, so I thought maybe.
Well, at Piranha, that one, yeah, the one that came out of Tennessee.
Yeah, that came out of
White House. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So this thing is called the MicroTurismo.
Micro what?
Turismo.
is that one of them?
That's one of them. That is actually a camera right there. You get a piece of hardware, and the camera has a connection to your radio controller, and you watch it on your smartphone, and you can see the car running from a POV on your smartphone.
Now, when you said they were interchangeable with NSR, is that running a brushed motor or a brushless motor?
Not in HR, Polycar.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, Polycar. Is that a brushed or a brushless motor?
I believe this is a brushless motor here because it has an ESC in it.
Yeah, it looks tiny too. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's pretty, well, it's a radio control, so it's heavier than ours. But anyway, it's an interesting concept.
So that looked bigger than a 1/32nd scale.
Well, it's if you look at Polycar.
Oh yeah, the monopostos are actually pretty long.
Oh yeah, monopostos are a little bit bigger. Like for example, here is an NSR wheelbase to wheelbase. You see that?
Yeah.
But you can't compare the two because F1 cars from 86 to 2010, 2000. Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, that's the are y'all seen that? Yeah. That's the
you don't have any Polycar monopostos yet?
Yeah, I do. That's I'm gonna pull one out now.
Because I remember Mauricio was saying that they had to keep the rear wing off of it because it wouldn't fit in the case.
Correct. And the front wing too. You have to put the front wing and the rear wing on. In fact, the front wing of this is very similar. There's the monoposto.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
My hand's kind of in the way. I apologize. We'll do it this way.
Have you tried to put a Polycar chassis body onto that?
No, but I'm going to try because they said that the manufacturers of MicroTurismo have been working with Polycar and said the parts are interchangeable and they will fit. And they even give you a little video of how to cut one down to put on there. You can use their front end on this open end area. They don't sell an open end area yet. They're working on it. And then you can buy the front wing. They have a library of products that are, you guys would all love this. They're the print, 3D printable, and you can order them from their library, or you can order the program from their library if you do the print. So it's a startup. They're out of France. I got it as part of a what do you call those where you put money in and hope it's going to work.
Kickstarter.
Thank you, Kickstarter. But they're beyond the Kickstarter phase now. They seem to be doing quite well.
Cool.
Yep. MicroTurismo.
Hopefully Vlad takes a look and maybe he'll start a little cottage selling bodies for it.
The underneath the chassis is quite, once you take the body off, it's very, very high tech inside. But the idea of the camera up here, being able to POV drive it, it's pretty cool.
More money to spend.
Oh yeah.
I was gonna say, you're gonna FPV drive that. Yeah. Not even gonna watch the car. You're just gonna watch the driver's point of view to drive the car. No, thank you.
You can hire someone to do that for you.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, kid, come here. 15-year-old kid. Whoa.
The goggles you would wear to be able to see through that FPV camera without your mobile phone would cost more than the model car.
Yeah.
True.
I've got
yeah.
Yeah, I own a pair, and they're £250 and upwards for things like that.
The cars are not cheap at 189 euros.
Right.
And do they supply that with the radio equipment?
Yes. It was Fly. Starts with Fly. I can't remember the second one.
So the car is ready to run, but you still need your own transmitter, or do you?
No, it's the radio and the transmitter comes with it. And
That's
you can
not
order
bad.
two
They call
different
it Fly Sky.
Fly Sky. Thank you, Dennis. It's a Fly Sky, and you can get a Fly Sky pistol radio, or you can get their Fly Sky that has the screen built into it, but it's quite a bit more.
Or use your cell phone.
Or you use your cell phone, and it has a cell phone adapter for the Fly Sky radio. Just flips in on top of it.
Yeah, that makes
Too
sense.
complicated. Just race slot cars for God's sake.
Well, what I'm thinking about doing though is taking the camera off one of them and wiring it to my slot car so I can have it on my slot car. Because the camera, if you take it off, is
Tiny.
well, I can't get it off. It's just this right here. Can you make it a little bit bigger there? It's just that area right there. Can you see it?
Yep.
Yeah,
That's the plug-in. Here's the lens cap cover.
it's probably got a 20mm square back face. That's
Yeah,
about the size of the ones on my drone.
Right, and it gives you a really good picture. I was amazed.
Yeah.
Who knows?
I mean, it's not about the picture quality. It's about the fact that it's just turn. If you're driving it at speed on a slot car track, there's
Well,
no.
now, these aren't that fast, I don't think. Again, it's a scale thing. So we'll have to see.
That's true.
Yeah, the fun thing to do with those is to drive them around the house and go to see what you can see, chase the dog, follow the cat, that kind of thing.
Well, I bought this carpet that is a racetrack. It's two pieces and you put them together. And I'm going to race it on that to see how it does, because it's a smaller scale than 1/32. So I'm going to see how it works on that.
Cool.
I bet the turning circle's a challenge with the long, narrow F1 car. But
Yeah.
Oh, and they also have sports cars. They have
How much do they run?
so it's 189.
And that's with the radio or no?
Yes, that's what I believe, 189, and that's with the radio. And if you buy more than one, you can use the same radio for both, or buy two radios and race against each other.
Okay. And how much are just separate cars? Probably 150 or
I don't know. You'd have to go on their website and take
Yeah,
a look.
okay, no problem. Yep.
Yeah.
Did anybody find their website? Dennis, you were saying you saw the price.
my
put
experience
it in
with
the
those Fly
chat.
Sky, yeah, those
in
Fly
the
Sky
chat.
transmitters are
okay.
$30 items. That's it. That's all they cost.
Yeah,
It says 189 euros.
which today is $189. So
Yeah,
we're
about the same.
about 1-to-1.
Yeah. Let me share my screen.
What about shipping?
Can you fit a guide on one?
Right?
That's an interesting idea, isn't it? Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of defeated it, but you may as well just move the camera across. But if the camera technology and the transmitter for the camera has been around for a few years now, but no one's ever adapted it to go into a slot car. I imagine it would be incredibly difficult to drive and to time your braking applications when you've got a FPV system on a slot car. But it would be an interesting idea. I've never seen it done. That's the gear,
Yep.
Where is
tools
it?
and everything, look.
Yep. It's easy to put together.
Oh, hey, I'm looking for information about the transmitter. I don't see a picture showing it.
When you see the transmitter box right here, and you're not seeing where I'm wanting to, but you can come down here and pre-orders under September. See this area?
There we go.
40 euros. There you go. Round about the same price.
Yeah.
So that's
And
the one that you get in the kit.
right,
And if
and
you want the nice one, you can buy it.
this, again, you can't see, but the thing on the far right is the the piece that fits on top of the radio that your cell phone slips into.
Yeah.
And then it talks to it, I think, via Bluetooth. So it's a pretty, it was a unique, fun little thing to look at.
Yeah.
Slot car wheels.
Say again?
I look down there, it looks like they're €8.90 slot car wheels.
They do.
They are, aren't they?
They are, yeah. Again, when I was talking to the guy in France, he said, if you have polycars, all their stuff will move right over to transmission, everything, you know, so.
That'll be a slotted wheel then. That'll be a 15.8 slotted wheel.
There you see how it all goes together. But I want to take my camera and move it over to one of my polycars. The best one I could move it over to is I have a electric Jaguar F1 that has the room to do it. I might put it on that one.
Okay, and then link to the video app.
Yeah. So for you guys to play with for another week.
Wires going to the motor.
All right, that's enough RC stuff. Anybody got any more slot car stuff to talk about, or should I just hit the stop button and talk about the weather? All right, go ahead, Alan.
Unearthed a couple controllers the other day. This is an early DeFalco. And this one here is what I've got a question about. It's a Professor motor. And right down here, oops, the other side, is a slide switch. As you can see, it's obscured. I don't recall what the hell that switch is for. Anybody got a clue?
It's probably your polarity switch.
Polarity?
It's so that you can run it on both positive gate and negative gate tracks.
Okay.
I think that's correct.
All right. Thank you.
Cool beans. When I see controllers like that, one of the things that I always enjoy seeing is how few contacts there are on the wiper board. And then I think about guys who are like, oh, you know, these digital controllers only have 36 steps. I'm like, bruh, there's professional racers out there using controllers with 10 steps or 12 steps on their wiper board. It's like,
Dan Ruddock, who used to make very good controllers, always said, you know, why do you need more than 18 steps? You don't have that granularity in your finger.
Yeah.
If you're racing wing cars, you need just 2 wires, one in each hand, and you just touch them together and pull them apart, and that's all you need. You don't need any steps.
So help educate me a little bit. We were talking to Wayne earlier about his controller. Why do you need a different kind of controller on 124th? Is it because of the power of the car? Or?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. They just, the really quick motors just draw tons and tons of amps.
Right.
So you need everything beefed up to take the heat and all the rest of the stuff.
Okay.
Stuff like that.
That's why they use car batteries to run the track, because endless amps, right?
Yeah, I mean, John, the cars that you run on your Carrera track probably at best will maybe draw 0.5 or 0.7 of an amp. So a wing car accelerating will maybe draw 80 amps. So it's a whole different story. Yeah.
Yeah.
They draw a lot of current. I could come off of racing even GT12s, which are not that fast. And at the end of a race, if I take my controller's control box where I have a blade fuse in it, and you feel the contacts where the blade fuse is soldered into the wiring, they're warm at the end of a race, right? So that's a 40 amp fuse. It doesn't blow, but it's warm at the end of a race.
Do the motors get hot on those things?
Oh yeah,
yeah.
We a lot of us have a little machined aluminum, a little cylinder with fins machined into it and a little magnet in the bottom. Turn the car over and pop that onto the motor to try and draw some of that heat out in between races.
Well,
Courtney's got one there right in his hand. Yeah, that's the one.
Dennis, I actually saw people doing that during the Electric Dreams race as well.
Yep. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I was using one. They're just basically a heat sink.
Yeah, and you just pop it onto the motor and it draws. that helps to it draws the heat out of, mostly out of the magnets in the motor. Some guys will use canned air and blow it into the motor, which will get the heat out of the armature.
Yeah.
But to my mind, getting heat out of the magnets is a better idea because it gets the brakes and the punch back.
Right.
I use this thing. You set the car on top of this. It's got a fan.
Yeah.
In there, so
Yeah, same story, just to get the heat out.
It's for 30-second scale racing, unless you're running like 800 grams of magnets in the thing, our motors do not heat up at all. It's a cool thing to have. It psychs out your competition, but
Psych.
not necessary.
that came from a Mini Z outfit. Mini Zs get warm, so we.
Oh yeah.
Don't they run brushless motors?
Some.
Okay.
The Formula Ones do not. The Formula Ones are limited to brush motors, at least in our club.
Yeah. And interesting when you were talking about car batteries. Most commercial tracks back in the day would not use car batteries because they were not powerful enough. They would use truck batteries and great big, like in a series of monster batteries.
I was gonna say one for each lane, or
yeah, in a truck batteries, they're just for trucks. They're not for slot cars. You know?
Semi batteries, talking about for semi tractors, 18-wheelers.
like
Sorry?
A lot of the guys would use golf cart batteries or other deep draw batteries, like come out of things that come out of like forklifts and things like that. Because a regular automotive battery is not a good thing to use because it's always under charge, and they generally only are designed to deliver high amperage for a very short time, because the only time that they ever deliver high amperage is when you're trying to
The
start
electric
the car.
forklifts you're talking about, the real large batteries, because they're like 4 volts, 36 volts.
Yeah, something like that. And I've seen a lot of nowadays. Pretty much everybody runs with big ass power supplies.
So the question I have is, I watched on YouTube. I think it was from Sweden, the European nationals of these winged cars.
Mm-hmm.
How do you even see them? I was at Helsinki, yes, Helsinki. Thank you. How do you even see those cars to drive them? They're so damn fast.
You basically feel them. I know that sounds weird, but you can feel the car. You can feel the car through the controller almost. And there's a couple of places on the track. In qualifying, you don't do anything. You just pull the trigger down and hope it stays on, and it's all glued in for the one lap. And then in the race, you might blip going into the dead man or something like that, depending on how you're.
Or the lead on.
Yeah.
So it's like,
once you learn to drive them, you do get a better feel for it, John.
Yeah.
It's but trying to follow the car with your moving your head, you're going to die.
Yeah.
You have to just move your eyes, basically. Especially me and my
vertigo. You get vertigo and your eyes start spinning.
Oh yeah,
it's crazy.
Hey, Greg, I know it's past show and tell, but can I show something real quick?
of course, the floor is open. We can do anything so long as it's slot car related. Or RC related, apparently.
I showed something about this a couple of weeks ago. This is a replica of a real car down to the, I don't know if you can see the little wind here. I'm going to take it off of that. You see the windscreen?
Wow.
Racing screen.
It looks almost exactly like the one that's on the car. The roll bar, basically the same angles as on the real car. Now the decals, like the SCCA sticker, is supposed to be real small, but I couldn't find one small enough. And then you see the Dunlop sticker right under the FP. They don't sell a decal like that. So I took, on the same decal sheet, there was a yellow stripe. So I cut that, put that down, then put Dunlop on top of it. So now it's close to what the real car had.
Nice.
and that's on a Penelope pit lane chassis, is it?
Yes.
Yeah.
And the body is from AA Bodies. It's a real small, I mean, maybe it's a true 132nd. It's like the new
Yeah, they were very small cars, Frank.
Yeah.
Well, and they're true 130s. I mean, you know, any of the stuff today is not, it's a scale. It's just not 1/32 scale.
Right.
Well,
Exactly.
as Dennis says, it's a nominal 1/32 scale.
There you go.
And this is how we're gonna present it to him on the. I got a piece of oak, cut out a slot for it, and then I also got I don't have it with me. It's with the guy that actually commissioned this. A picture of the real one that's going to go with it.
And there's a guy in Toronto that's selling a machine that'll tell you if that oak is flat or not.
I don't think it much matters. But that's the final product.
Very
That's
nice.
gorgeous.
I mean, it's down to the helmet. That's the helmet that the guy wears. Right,
Can we see the
Black
chassis
light.
one more time?
It's one of those flat. It comes on a. What are they?
A fold
Those
up.
nickel silver foldable things.
Yeah.
What is that
And-
motor?
Penelope pit lane. It's a FF050.
Right.
SRC.
Small one that comes with it.
I don't know. I don't recognize the PP.
Penelope pit lane. PP.
Oh,
Same guys that make the chassis.
gotcha. Okay.
And it just turned out I had a set of Pioneer. Again, they go with the Mustangs and the Camaros or whatever. And they just
Traeger.
almost, yeah.
No, torque thrusts.
Yeah, those are torque. Yeah, torque thrusts. Yep.
And they almost exactly matched the ones that were on the car. And I just took the tires off of the rims that I got with the chassis. And it worked out okay.
That's great.
Now, when do you plan to present it, Frank?
September 24th, he's racing at Button Willow with this same car. Although it's in its new version, he's put on an air what do you call it? Like it's got flared fenders now and an air dam up front. The original racing, the original car that his parents bought in 1956. His parents raced it back in the 60s and 70s. He raced it through the 80s. It sat for 15 or 20 years and he just resurrected it about 6 years ago. He's 78 years old and still races this thing and usually wins. It's so fast. So it'll be neat to see the car in person in Buttonwillow next month. Hey, that's only 3 weeks away. Wow. Okay.
That's super cool. Take a bunch of pictures and show and tell that.
Thank you. Hey, that's a good point. Yeah, we'll do that.
Yeah.
It's new configuration. He had to go to number 62 because after it.
Right, so we should have the.
Yes.
Didn't realize.
I don't think he was talking to us.
No, he's got a phone. Yeah, he didn't realize he wasn't muted.
When he brought the car back onto the track, he couldn't get the number 31 anymore. So now it's number 62. But anyway, I probably should have showed that earlier, but I just remembered I still had it here at the house. It's actually going to go to the guy that commissioned it for his friend.
Very cool.
Very nice.
Thank you.
What you got, Dennis?
I've got a question for you.
Okay.
And maybe for others who do some digital racing. A customer at Electric Dreams bought one of those new Art Pro Platinum GT racing sets.
Yeah.
Complaining that he cannot bind it to, or he cannot connect to his phone. What's the issue? Any idea? And when I started researching, I started finding some stories about people saying that the Bluetooth's not very good. Are there any special tricks?
The main tricks are, for whatever reason, location services, aka GPS, needs to be turned on, and of course Bluetooth needs to be turned on. Once those things are on, if it still doesn't want to connect, then toggle them off and then back on and try again. And then if it still doesn't want to connect, restart the phone and make sure those things turn on, and then try to connect. Depending on the guy's phone, I mean, at this point, unless he's using just a super old phone, then it should have BLE. But if it's old enough to not have BLE, it might have regular Bluetooth, which means it won't work at all. So the phone has to have BLE, which is Bluetooth Low Energy, which is apparently a different communication protocol, not just lower energy protocol.
All right.
But if he's only tried the Scalextric Arc app, suggest that he try the Magic Arc app as well.
Okay. All right.
It seems to work better on some phones than others, but also provides a little bit more information about, the connection. And, if he gets to the point of, getting something happening but not working completely, then there's a log feature in the Magic app that, you can work with the developer to try to resolve it.
All right.
I still had problems with my tablet with the Magic app, but I find it works perfectly well on my laptop.
Yeah,
it's not an Apple versus Android problem.
Not really. I mean, I've seen more.
Will it work on both?
Yes.
Yeah, it's got a version for both, and it should work on either one.
All right, thank
But that's why I said location services, because Apple calls GPS location services, whereas most Android phones just call it GPS.
All right.
But yeah.
Thank you very much.
Paul, is your tablet older or newer?
That's a Samsung. I think it's one down from the one that's out now.
Okay, so fairly new.
Yeah, the A1.
That's one of those annoying things. Like, it's the same technology, but for whatever reason, the way that the drivers are written or manipulated by whoever made the tablet. Yeah. So I mean, if he's only tried one particular device, if he's got a family member or a friend, or he's got a tablet or some other device to try it on, he should try it on different devices.
All right. From what I know, and I haven't spoken to the guy yet himself, he did speak to Scalextric USA. They sent him a new control unit, but that doesn't make any difference.
Probably know the guy who sent him the new control.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
You need to get the Magic software. That's a way better software than the Scalextric one.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks.
Mine's Magic software. It's the same.
Yeah, just as far as just better race management software, the Magic is the way to go.
Okay. Thanks, guys. I appreciate the help, because I really don't know anything about this stuff.
He's done hearing about it. Anybody else? Am I ready to hit the record? Hit the stop button? So
I've got one.
I've got a quick one.
Wayne.
Okay, go ahead, Wayne.
Okie dokie. Well, I've arrived home since the start of the chat. It probably wouldn't look like it, but I've just taken a couple of photographs to show you what arrived in my mailbox today. These are for a potential interest for Alan. I purchased some of those titanium half thread screws that I recommended. He took a look at. They're from China.
Are those Torx head?
They are T6 Torx head, yep. And they are M2 by 8mm in that case, I think. These are not. These are 256, which I think is M2.2-ish. Bit thicker. And I got some 10mm ones as well.
And these are what you got these off of AliExpress?
And they're manufactured in titanium, these ones.
Ooh, nice and light.
Yeah, they're intended to be used for body shell mounting, and obviously there's enough there to leave some float behind.
Nice.
I purchased 30 of each size, which got me to a price break that got me faster shipping, and they were here within a fortnight. And obviously the shipping was shared between 30 screws as opposed to just 10, or 30 in 3 cases. So it's 90 screws in total.
So what was
another little
source
thing
for that again, Wayne?
What was the total cost, and what was your?
Oh gosh, I would have to. When I've stopped the share, I'll take a look on my AliExpress app, and I'll tell you what the total cost was for me. I think the screws were all the same price actually, but I'll check and I'll get back to you when I finish the share. But before I finish the share, there's something else that I purchased, and I don't think anybody. Well, I don't think many slot car races actually require them, but that is the reason I purchased them, and it's these. Oh, my bad. There's a view of all 90 screws. It's these. Oh, and I've thrown a screw on there for scale. That's a 10mm screw. Anybody know what these are and what I'm likely to use them for?
Look like tungsten weights to me.
Magnets.
Or
Magnets. Go away, Chris.
Tungsten weights.
Yes, and they all have weights written on them. So
No, actually, you're all wrong.
Really?
Yeah. Anyone want to go
Batteries.
again?
It's the new monetary system for Great Britain.
Yeah, it's the new euro.
I tell you what I'm going to use them for.
They're probably,
those are thicknesses written on them.
yeah, those are valve shims from an overhead from a car maybe.
No, a motorcycle engine.
Or motorcycle engine. Okay. So.
Yeah, they are valve shims for motorcycle
Ding, ding,
engines.
ding, ding. Dennis wins.
What are you going to use them for?
Cam engineers.
I'm going to use them for ground clearance measurement.
Okay. Stick them on
So
the stick.
we race, as you probably know, the DISCA, Digital Slot Car Association regulations. And one of the categories, GT3, has a height underneath the motor regulation of 1.8mm. And I've got two sets here. Some of them are upside down, so you can't see the numbers, but I made sure that we could see a range. And I've got these, they weren't expensive, so I just bought the whole range between, I think it's about 1.7 and 1.9. To be able to measure the ground clearance underneath the motor accurately. And these are steel, so they'll just stick on the motor, and you just put the motor on a setup block and just check that you've got the required ground clearance.
So if you have exactly 1.8 and you put it exactly what you put the 1.8 thing under the car, how do you confirm that you have exactly
The tires will be on the ground.
Tires are touching, but then are you going to make sure you can't see light? Or so you're going to hold up your block, make sure you can't see any light above or below the shim? Or
Well, there won't be any light above the shim because it'll be stuck to the motor magnet.
Okay.
And yes, the answer is yes. When I went to the technical inspector at the last event for this and asked, how exactly do you, this is how they do it. They use a valve shim that's a 1.8 thickness. They stick it on the motor, they pop it on the tech block, and then they take a monocle, pop it in the old eye socket, and look underneath the car, and sometimes probably roll it forward and backwards.
Or get one of John Rose's earwax cameras and look through there.
Yeah, essentially. So yeah, that's how the regulation is applied, and so there's no better way than to emulate it precisely.
Yeah.
And that's what I purchased to help me to do that in future.
Interesting stuff.
Hey, since Dennis won, does he get the 100,000 from Chris?
And Chris didn't say anything.
I'll take that as a no. All right. Anything else? All right. I've got
a quick one. I want to have a go at doing a scratch build. I've never done one before, but there's a particular type of body that I want to try, and I can't find a model or anything for it. It's a Jensen Interceptor. Has anybody seen any 132 scale models of that anywhere? Obviously not.
It's an Interceptor.
Can't say I have.
No,
I
would have thought that maybe Ethics might have had one in the past.
Yeah, yeah, because the car was never really raced, so I don't think that anyone really knew.
Yeah, that's let me check. I suspect someone may have. I'm not sure. I'm certainly from a 3D print. I'm sure they're available.
I've looked. I can't find any.
Yeah, I assume this is the one you're talking about. What year are you talking about?
Yeah. It's for the 60s. I think I can't remember. It's the Mark 1 I'm after.
They may come in die cast.
Yeah, but they're only small. I think they're 130, 143 or 140, whatever it is. One.
Let me dig. I'll report back next week.
Okay, thanks.
I'm not convinced either way, but it's worth checking.
Because they didn't race them.
I thought at one time there may have been a James Bond, an early Scale Electrics James Bond set that had one. Does that sound familiar?
It's definitely not a electric one.
The Interceptor wasn't used in Bond films.
James would have never driven a Jensen.
No, it would have been the bad guy.
It was my father's dream car, and I just wanted to see if I could get a body and scratch build one, and he never got the car. But
that is an interesting looking car.
Yeah, it was a pretty quick car as well.
Yeah,
well, it had Chrysler V8 in it.
Yeah, and a Chrysler transmission most of the time with an automatic. Yeah.
It looks like Beta makes a vacuum formed one.
Well, they'll probably if they do a vacuum one, they'll probably pull one out
have a
plastic
glass
car
fiber
as
one.
well.
Yeah.
that's what I've seen. The 143 die cast. That's all I can find.
Yeah.
Get a hold of Nimrod. He'll fire it up.
I was gonna say.
Someone's got to have a file somewhere. Well, here's go back. There was a 3D model of one there. Oh, there you go. Who's that?
Hobby BB.
That's white metal.
It's only $100,000. And he just won it.
Then I can buy it.
Can you see what scale it is?
That's probably a 43rd if it's white metal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you see something on the previous page?
There was some stuff that said it was on the left. There was
Pretty much
3D.
everything I saw was 143rd.
Yeah, I mean, I've been looking. I found ones like I said with a different size die cast. I've never found a model.
Yeah, here, right in the middle there, right in the middle. What's that?
Oh, okay.
That's a Ford Escort.
Okay, this said.
Oh my
Oh,
God.
there you go. Free 3D.
Yeah, it ain't free though, is it? 110.
No, I don't mind paying for it.
Yeah, about $110. And this is probably meant for. Oh, it's got an OBJ. Very detailed, correctly scaled model of a 68 Interceptor.
For rendering.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I think it's primarily for like high-end video game rendering, not 3D printing.
Okay.
But somebody with the skill like Nimrod, or maybe Alan could tackle it, would be able to take that model and give it the thickness that it needs to be 3D printed.
Well, Courtney found one on Beta and Classic site. So
Yeah, they just.
if you want, what I would do is order one in clear plastic and order one in Plasticard. And then you can cut the Plasticard windows out, cut the windows out of the clear plastic one, and then put those in, and you'll have windows in it. And to see if it'll work, it'll cost you, a few bucks. They're not expensive for Beta and Classic, and they do nice work.
Where was that one?
What was the source?
Beta and Classic.
Beta and Classic.
BETTAAND Classic, all in one word, .com, I think.
Brilliant. I'll have a look at that. Thank you very much.
There you
That's
go.
the one. That's the one. You go to 1/32 scale cars. Yeah, there.
Various
others. GT. Well, that's why they have them.
It might be under various others. You never know.
Well, they've got them all in dates here.
Date
so
order.
That should be easy.
No, so it may well be. You might have to look under road rally cars or somewhere, or various others, or one or the other.
I don't know that it was 132. I just read a post on slot form real quick.
It would be.
I'm looking in 124.
Would it come up on 125th also?
Maybe.
They don't seem to have a search feature. That'd be super nice. But let's do Google. Help me, Google, help. All right, and Jensen. Oh, come on.
John Kidd, if you found a metal one, could you make one of your molds like that?
Oh,
Only
yeah,
my
no problem.
43rd in metal, because I thought about doing it. If I could find one, I looked at John's videos.
No, that's a
Yeah,
Formula.
that's an FF, which is
Yeah.
basically an interceptor with four-wheel drive.
Yeah.
Oh, PDF, great. Okay.
Wow, this is like group surfing. This is awesome.
Remember Control and F.
It looks like the FF is the only, because assuming this is their complete list of bodies, that's the only place Jensen appears in the document. Is
Got
right.
a feeling I've looked on that site.
Yeah, that's why you didn't find the interceptor there, because it's not there.
Yeah, it's only the FF that's there.
Yeah,
Wasn't the FF the same body as the interceptor?
I'm pretty sure it was just what I
think-
thought it was four-wheel drive, no?
And there were a couple of little details along the side of the car that were a little different, but the overall shape is the same.
Oh, I thought it looked different.
I did as well. I didn't think it.
I think you used a Ferguson four-wheel drive system.
That's not it.
None of those are FFs.
Okay.
Oh, you just have to find some people who are really into the Persuaders, because I think that's the car they used for the show.
This is what they're. Oh yeah, that does look similar. Okay, I didn't see the rounded back end.
It's got the windows very rounded on the back of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's you know.
But this is what you're saying. Cut the
Yeah,
windows
it looks like the manta ray.
Yeah, anyway.
Yeah.
Thanks anyway.
You know how to get in touch with Vlad? He's known as Nimrod on. I think.
Yeah, I did message him, but he didn't. He did message back, but I didn't really understand what he was talking about. To be fair.
Probably just need more source material. When he was on, he was basically saying if you can get good photos of, straight on the side, straight on the front, straight on the top, and then other reference photos, then he could probably do it. And the measurements of the real one-to-one vehicle.
I was expecting to be really busy after the chat anyway, so I didn't follow it up. I just kept quiet.
Yeah. Well, the squeaky wheel.
Yeah.
You sure we can't interest you in an Aston Martin?
Sorry?
Sure we can't interest you in just an Aston Martin? No?
No, the other one that I'd like to, I haven't seen one of the probably is a Triumph Stag.
Oh man, yeah, no, oh geez.
I'm not that worried about that one, but I really would like to get a Jensen Interceptor, but that's a similar car, isn't it? Similar time.
Yeah, except the Jensen. I was going to say, except the Jensen would start.
Did Airfix not do a Stag?
Not in 32nd. No, I don't think so. No.
Okay.
Alrighty, looks like chat is dwindling down. Unless anybody else has any last minute things they want to make sure is on the recording.
I got one.
Go ahead, Brian.
I was surfing Slot Forum this morning, and it's not a website I frequent. I don't know. Don't like some of the characters there, I guess. But
sorry,
Kevin.
They all speak highly of you,
especially that flippant guy.
Well, Kevin had started a post. Kevin from here, he spells his name Kevan, I'm sorry. And he's been on the chat a few times. Started a tips and tricks post. Greg, you were actually on this post.
Yep.
Where he suggested using magnets to hold your lead weight in place while your super glue dries.
To hold the chassis flat while the super.
To hold the chassis flat using. And I was just stunned at how horrible that thread turned quickly.
Yeah.
And I mean, people more or less, in not so many words, were basically coming out and telling him he was full of crap. What he was doing was stupid. There were better ways to do it. People were suggesting, other things, and then people would jump into that and say, tungsten putty, that's crap. Don't use it. It's garbage. Yada, yada, yada. No, you don't do this. You got to do this. You don't know what you're talking about. I think they even made disparaging remarks about the guy from Cleve Tech, from, you know, talking to people here, seems to really know his stuff pretty well. And
It
I
was
was just
definitely
surprised how quickly that a simple, what someone was thought was a useful tip, you know, ended up being almost an insult fest. And I'm talking 6 pages of it.
There's no moderator on that. Usually, moderator should catch that,
I don't think slot forum moderators do much of anything.
and that's why it's not a good forum. Then, if it's going to turn into that.
And somebody actually commented that it seems to take forever to get moderators involved. But I bring it up because I kind of want to tip my hat to you, Greg, because this forum that we're in here could very easily develop into that. And I think you just do a great job of keeping us all on track. It's friendly. Nobody here seems to be afraid to speak their mind, which I think is a credit to you. I mean, for example, we delved a little bit into the RC stuff today. You let it go for a little while, and then you brought us right back into the slot car stuff. So kind of a tip of the hat to you, Greg, for how well you do moderate this. And I mean, 100+ episodes, this could have turned into a shitstorm a long time ago. And you've done a great job. You've done a really good job of keeping this place
keeping the kids in line.
So.
However, I would like to bring up magnets and weights. I think there's a problem with it.
Yeah.
Well, the minute you say magnets, they go nuts.
Well, you know,
mean,
on
like
the
I
magnet
said-
thing, because y'all know I'm a magnet racer. I just think it's kind of funny that people will down talk magnets, but then don't have any problems slathering glue all over their track. So, you know, take that.
My grandkids love magnets. It's fun magnet racing because they could race the other cars and it don't matter. It stays on.
I think they're spectacular. Otherwise, I'd never know what was on my grocery list on the fridge.
I was actually at a magnet car race on Monday night. I mean, I didn't do any club corner, but we had 14 guys in a friend of mine's garage on a 3-lane track that has magnet braid, and all the cars were magnet, and we had a ball. It's just a different kind of racing. But it was great fun.
You have to be open-minded.
Well, it's obvious that people who don't race with magnets don't have any idea of what they're doing. They should be out of the hobby. You know, they don't have a clue.
I mean, regarding that thread that you mentioned, you know, like you said, I participated in that. I basically, my input was I'd never had any issues with chassis warping when I glue something. But then I started just kind of backing away. Like you said, so many of the guys were just making fun of him even having made that suggestion. It's like, okay, well, you know, if you don't agree, just say, yeah, I've never had that issue, or, you know, I do something else or whatever. But then they just started piling on with all this, you know, oh, we see so much garbage advice over here, and how are you supposed to know the good advice from the bad advice? And
it's true. It's easy for us to like sit, you know, in our house or go through our lives and badmouth millennials and how bad that generation behaves.
Yeah.
The way they behave on the internet, the way they behave walking down the street. And yet what I see on Slot Forum is a lot of angry old white men. I'm thinking, I don't need this shit in my life, you know. And when someone piles into one of my threads and starts doing it, I just ignore them now. I just can't be bothered.
Automotive forums are also really bad too. I've been in automotive forums.
Camera too.
Yeah.
Camera forums, yeah. Pretty much all the forums.
But I did have a funny magnet story. Walked into my friend's house the other day, and his 6-year-old was standing looking at their Sub-Zero refrigerator. And she kept putting someone mentioned grocery list, the grocery list, and it would fall to the floor. She did it and it would fall to the floor. She goes, I think this magnet is out of gas.
There you go.
Oh, be on pause.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's why, not to mention any names, but there are a few special folks on Slot Forum, and I think that caused the rift, which created the guys to start up Slot Racer Online.
Yeah. I believe a moderator or two participated in that thread that we were talking about with some of their own advice of not taking advice.
And when people ask me about Slot Forum and Slot Racer Online, I say, if you want numbers, you want opinions from the masses, go to Slot Forum. You'll get dirge and dirge and dirge, loads of stuff. But if you really want to put something out there, and you've got some ideas and thoughts, and you don't want people just throw rocks at you, but just genuinely think about what you're saying, then slot race is a better platform for that.
I tend to agree.
And by the way, the magnet thing, that obviously was tongue in cheek, folks. So please don't hold it against me.
Yes, it was obvious.
Damn it.
Yeah.
Everybody here was offended. You can see that.
Yeah,
It's just
the
a
only other
different
thing I
kind
would
of
say is
racing.
it
It all comes
only
down
thing
to
that I
whatever
know is-
floats your boat. Period.
Only thing I know in slot racing that's a true fact is never trust anyone from North Carolina.
Well, but you know what,
thank
Brian,
you.
you got a great point, Brian. I mean, it's like food. There's no bad way to enjoy food. There's no bad way to enjoy this hobby.
Yeah, as long as you're having fun.
I mean, like I said, I've been involved in lots of forums, RC racing, archery, air rifles, and inevitably it happens. There's a small clique that seem to that are the regulars that seem to just take over everything. And I was just astounded how quickly somebody who was just trying to offer a tip and suggested maybe doing a list of tips, the whole thing just died into we can't do this because 90% of the tips people give on here are garbage. You can't listen to and blah, blah, blah. It was
But Brian, to your point, there's always some little short guy looking for some buddies to, storm the Reichstag, right? There's always somebody.
Well, it would have been one thing if it had been. It wasn't just one person, though.
Yeah,
it was a bunch of people that just started in on this. And it was like, oh my God, all the guy was trying to do was offer a helpful tip on how to do something. And people were saying, oh, you can't use tape. Tape's too thick. You need your center of gravity as low as possible. I mean, if the layer of thickness of tape is thrown off the center of your gravity of your car so much that you can sense it, I don't know. You're superhuman as far as I can see.
Yeah, marketers call them sheep. In the military, they're called cannon fodder. That's just.
And it wasn't even, his tip wasn't even like a bad tip. Like, it was just something that he did because of what he's doing. It wasn't like if you did what he was suggesting, you would ruin things. It just might not be necessary for what you do. Right? It wasn't like, oh, you should put at least 5 drops of oil on the comm of every motor of every car you ever run because that'll make things work better. That's a bad tip. But yeah. Kevin's tip was just, hey, this is what I do. It works for me. You're not going to ruin anything by following his tip.
There's the key word.
Web of experts.
What works for you.
Yeah.
I followed some of his tips. I follow Kevin. I don't know him personally. He lives in the Isle of Man. And one of the things I noted was about how real motorsport is. And I said, I don't really follow Formula One anymore because it's just a circus. I like things to be raw and mean. I want to see whatever. And basically he said, yeah, you should come over to the Isle of Man TT sometime. Bring your slot car. So, I'm staying in contact with Kevin.
Well, I think we're ready to hit the stop button and we'll talk about the weather and kids and whatnot for the rest of the time or whatever. So until next week, everybody wave bye. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, bye.